Hi, today we're talking about unraveling the patterns and healing complex PTSD through subconscious transformation. And this is a really big deal for people healing from complex PTSD. A lot of when we are coming from childhoods where there's abuse or neglect or dysfunctional patterns, we are during that's a really important time for us in our development and as we're developing our subconscious programming that we're designed to carry with us for the rest of our life to give us that start, that boost. And when that programming is not great because of dysfunction and mental illness, we are still picking that up. And so this has nothing to do with us. Our subconscious programming is not us. And we have to find a way to get that stuff processed. And the brain has a beautiful process for resolving and updating and upgrading and releasing old subconscious programming that's no longer serving us. And that's really what I want to talk about today is how to get the brain to really move through the subconscious programming, upgrade it, release it, leave it alone, leave the old stuff out and like drop it off at the brain trash center. And we can get the brain to do that by really supporting it. And so I'm going to talk about that today. I'm Rachel McLeod. I'm a mental health therapist and emotional wellness coach. I specialize in complex PTSD recovery and also helping people do the brain work for resolving symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. And so, like I said, the brain has a really beautiful process for all of that. And that process gets stopped and blocked and impaired. And so, when the brain can't move through that process, it'll shift over to survival modes, and then we're going to have more symptoms. And so, but we really, if we can get that unblocked and moving forward, instead of symptoms, our brain gives us growth. It will take all that material that was going to generate anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress, and it will create and it will convert it into health and wellness. That's what it's designed to do. It's not designed to do all these symptoms. But when its process isn't working, then it's going to. So we just help get that process unblocked, and the brain really is able to finally do the brilliant, beautiful healing work that it can do to help us to thrive, excel in our environments, deepen our relationships, our connections, and our intimacy. And so, this in my work, I rely on this brain process 3,000%. And right, that's not a real number, but you see what I'm exaggerating, storytelling over here. Um, and then there are some skills that we can use to really help the brain, like, hey, and we can select the programming that we want the brain to go and resolve for us. And we can walk it through its process so we can ensure it gets done. Okay, so um, it's really a brilliant, exciting, phenomenal thing to experience, to participate in, to walk oneself through, and to teach others how to do. And so we're going to talk through that today. So um, this really for healing and overcoming complex PTSD, unraveling these patterns, these subconscious programs, and these subconscious patterns are really really important. The subconscious mind is where we store all of our automatic behaviors. These is where we create these no-brainers, right? We don't have to think it through. They're automatically going to happen. If you are really quick at doing something, you don't even have to think about it. You're automatically going through it, like tying your shoe. um, that's your heart rate, your gosh, I'm thinking all the things. um, but if you're that's a subconscious program. You learned the skill, it took you a little while, it was a little bit of trial and error, all of a sudden you were doing it well, then you were doing it well some more, and then your brain was watching you the whole time. I was like, oh, okay, bet I can do that for us. And so next thing you know, you're tying it without trying. You're not having to be conscious of what you're doing. It's now in your subconscious or muscle memory. um, it, those are similar places. And now you're just doing it. Now the thing is that if your programming is for high level effectiveness, leave that alone, right? You're winning. Your brain's figured it out. It's made a program that is excellent, can be used under duress, under challenges, and it's still rocking. Your subconscious mind in that area is rocking. Now, these other ones. Now, when we come from complex childhood experiences of abuse or neglect, we might have these unconscious programs for survival, for protecting ourselves, for defending ourselves. Um, we have programs for how we use our emotional energy. Um, we might be stuck. Our programming isn't upgrading, so we're stuck at developmentally behind. Like we're stuck at tantrums. So maybe we're fit throwing, and we have today, right? Maybe we're doing outbursts of anger with our children. Maybe we're having meltdowns. Yes, brains will do this if that's where the subconscious programming is. Has nothing to do with if you're mature and how old you are. It has to do with what your brain has been able to build for you, right? And so you might find some people with complex PTSD are pretty great over here. Maybe at work, they just look phenomenal. With their friends, they look great. But in the home, maybe that's where they're going to see more meltdowns, more outbursts of anger, more shutdown, more retreat, more flee. And that's because out there, they've built it. But inside the home, the subconscious programming hasn't developed past the childhood. And what's frustrating about this is you might have the most amazing partner, you might have the most amazing children, but you're still behaving as if there were dangers and strangers in your home, right? And that's a subconscious program thing. That's where you say, okay, I'm going to totally be open and receptive. Let's go. But what happens is that things get going and your subconscious programming pulls forward, and now you're doing all the programming for being defensive, for shutting down, for fleeing, for fawning, right? All of that stuff is on the subconscious programming, right? And this is not you. This is your subconscious programming. We're very much like computers that we're going to operate based on our programming. There's a little bit of effort you get, a little bit of space you get here to choose your own direction. And if you apply the willpower, you're going to stay there. But as soon as you release the willpower and your conscious awareness, your subconscious programming will come forward. That's why we can do the thing if we focus and concentrate. But all of a sudden, if something happens, then we go back to what we're programmed for. And this people get really upset about this, but this is the human design. Our subconscious programming is designed to carry the majority of the load of our behaviors today. It's our subconscious programming is designed to help us to live out who we are and who we're supposed to be. That stuff gets programmed in early childhood. Okay. So if who was programming you there wasn't very healthy, that's a lot of what's happening now, is that your subconscious programming just is not fabulous. Okay. Now, a lot of my work with people is to give them the skills to change their own subconscious programming. This is really important with complex PTSD, I believe, and I believe this is why my clients are getting such phenomenal results, is that they're the ones who are with their subconscious programming every day. And I really want them to be independent in their ability to work through subconscious programming that's no longer serving them, because they're going to see it constantly. If you have to wait for your therapy appointment to do anything with your subconscious programming, that means you might get one subconscious programming resolved or begin to unravel in a week. And maybe if you got a therapist that can see you twice a week, they got two times a week. But if I teach you these skills, if you're learning the skills for this, all of a sudden you can affect powerful change in your subconscious mind. And this is a lot of the things that are happening in hypnosis. It's working with the subconscious programming, but you're dependent upon them to do that for you. And I'm not against hypnosis. I'm not against any of the things, but I don't want you to be dependent on that because of the amount of work of shifting the subconscious programming, and unraveling it and making it healthy. The amount that has to be done, I want you on board. I want you skilled. I want you working through your subconscious programming with your therapist or with therapy appointments or even independently on your own. I have tons of people that walk through my program by themselves. I never see them. They send me emails about all the great results they're getting, right? But I want you to have this skill. It's really, 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 really a valuable skill. And I don't want you to be dependent. I want you to be able to work through a subconscious program when you're in the shower. I want you to be able to work through a subconscious program on your way to work. I want you to be able to utilize that time and just support your brain to do the work it wants to do for you. Okay. A lot of what's happening in our inner world, a lot of these symptoms are the brain's effort to get stuff processed. It's actually not the effort to torture you. um, I was working with somebody recently, and they were saying they were struggling to use their interventions because they felt like they deserved to feel like this. They deserve to feel bad. um, that's programming from childhood, right? And what we're really wanting to do there is look behind that programming. We want to unravel that. And there's deserving stuff, there's beliefs in there, there's emotions in there, shame, unworthiness, right? We want to get the brain in there and take that stuff down for us. And we really need the emotional aspects of the subconscious programming to get processed, because that's the part the brain's struggling with. The brain is not struggling with any other parts. Ooh, I want to say that again in a different way. Okay. Um, this is what I believe. And mind you, we're just going to take a left over in Rachel land. Um, but one of my practices and is I really make functional ways of healing these things and then teaching them to people. And so I believe that that beliefs are emotion and thoughts, and that if the subconscious mind doesn't care about positive emotions or negative emotions. It just, if it's got emotion, it's juicy and blingy and it must be important. That's what subconscious minds think, right? And so if you've got, let's say in childhood you were experiencing some domestic violence and there was terror, and you had some thoughts here like I'm not safe, and or I can't help my mom, right? So now I'm powerless, right? So now there's enough emotional bling and charge here and a belief I'm powerless, and they go together, and now they make a belief, and the subconscious mind's like, ooh, give me that. It's really shiny and pretty. And it goes and stuffs it into the subconscious mind. And now it's running on the subconscious programming how I'm powerless, I'm powerless, I'm powerless. In a relationship with somebody like this, you're going to talk to them about a challenge they have, and they're going to say, well, I can't do it anyway. Or, well, I guess I'm just never going to be good enough. That is because in the subconscious mind somewhere, there's powerlessness. Okay. And that's actually an opportunity to really resolve those things. But what we really want to do in the subconscious programming is we want to be able to grab the belief that's nice and painful. You'll pull it up and it's got all this emotional charge to it. Um, don't do this if you don't know how to work through emotional charges, right? But what we want to do is pull it up. If you can't deal with the emotional charge, please don't pull it up. Um, we're trying to avoid this stuff happening. That's how we become avoidant of our symptoms. Is we're like, I don't know how to do that. But as soon as you know how to take emotional charge off something, which is why this is what I teach people to do first, then you're like, ooh, I bet I could work on that. I bet I could take that out of there. And so, yes, now we're leaning in. Now we're like, ooh, give me something, subconscious mind. Give me something. Okay. So when we pull up this belief, the powerlessness, right? We're pulling up the old terror. We're pulling up the old fear, right? That's the stuff the brain registers in the brain as pain and kicks on survival mode and shuts off processing mode. So this thing will come up from the subconscious mind and go straight into a symptom. It did not pass by the processors. It did not go through upgrading. It did not go through healing. It did not go through a reconstruction or, hey, this is some brain trash. Let's throw that out. It did not get to go through that process. But now, if we get it intentionally, we pull it up and we do the brain work for taking off all this terror, getting it processed, right? Terror sends us into survival mode, right? But if we get terror and we're sending those signals to the brain, we're using specific interventions for this, all of a sudden, and we're working with a different part of the brain. We're not doing talk therapy style stuff. We're working with the part below that in the brain. And then all of a sudden, this is getting processed and the terror is getting resolved. And so you'll actually come back to this belief you will not find the terror there anymore. It's been pulled off. It's like the shiny was scrubbed off. Also, that shame shuts down the system powerfully. It's so painful to the nervous system. But instead of going to a symptom, we're going to get it through the healing pathways, and it's going to go through the whole upper brain part, and they're going to take the pain off. They're going to process the data. They're going to convert it into tons of awesome things. Shame gets converted into amazing things, powerful things. As a matter of fact, the fastest way to transform your world externally is to process shame that's going on internally. It's huge. Okay. Now, but what's left is this thought that has no emotional charge to it. Subconscious minds do not like this. It's not pretty. It's not shiny. Get that out of here. Now it's being released from the subconscious mind. And then it gets access because the survival system is reacting to that charge as well. That charge that the subconscious mind loves to hold on to terrifies the survival system when it's the negative charges. If it's joy, it's going to go right through. It's not a threat. It's not determined to be a threat. But if it's got terror on it, it's going to go to survival mode. Well, we took that off. So now this thought actually just gets to go through the process, and they get to say, oh, this really doesn't match any of us, our goals. Oh, I can see that they used to believe that, but we really don't. We're just going to get rid of that. And now your brain went through the process of releasing that, and it's done. If your brain does it, it's done. If you do it, it's not done, because your brain has to go through its process of releasing it. We can pretend our subconscious mind is clear as we're over it. And I have lots of people that come to me wanting to pretend they're over something. And you're not. You don't get to decide you're over something. Your brain does. And if you're still having flashbacks, or you're still avoiding, or or you're putting up mental walls, you're not over it. There's too much pain in there, and you're in response to that. Okay. And so if we are not afraid of, like, hey, whatever's in there, let's rock. Let me help you with that, brain. Let me help you get the shame off of that. Let me help you get the worry off of that. Let me help you get the fear. Let me help you get the rage off of that. Let me help you get the grief processed. All of a sudden, all the other processes in the brain work, and the brain actually will take even traumas and create our health and wellness. The most vile traumas, health and wellness. And we can walk through this process as much as we want to, because your brain is trying to do it all day, every day anyway. So we're going to set up a good amount of time. I have people who want to recover from complex PTSD. I'm like, okay, roll your sleeves up, let's go. And I have them do about 2 hours of this intervention work a day. Now, it's not all in one chunk, because who has that time and that freedom? Some people do. And if you do, excellent. That's great. If you don't, great. We're going to still get this. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 5 minutes here. We're just going to stay on it and help your brain take off the emotions in the subconscious programming, so that the subconscious program gets to go through its overhaul. Okay. One of the other things is that we are constantly outgrowing our subconscious programming. If you're healthy, you're constantly outgrowing your subconscious programming. If you have had children and you finally have got them locked in at 10 and you were supporting them accurately, and then they grow and now they're 11 and now they have different needs and different, now your old subconscious program that you worked so hard to build is gone. Now we need the update. If your brain isn't processing, then you don't get the update. If let's say your child is now 12, and at 12 you had a massive trauma and you're trying to support your child, but your brain is having flashbacks here. Your brain is struggling to do what it needs to do to show up for your child because it's dealing with past stuff. We want to help it work through that stuff so that it can update your programming to 12, right? This is why it's so important to learn how to work through flashbacks and to help your brain finish those. We do not want to be suppressing flashbacks, because you can't suppress them. Next thing you know, they're coming out in your dreams. Next thing you know, you're projecting them all over your relationships and you're tearing your world down. Okay, so no, we welcome flashbacks because it's actually part of the subconscious programming, the subconscious mind bringing something up that it needs resolved so that it can continue to shift to help you reach your goals. It's like this. The subconscious mind is like, oh, you want to be able to support your 12-year-old? Okay, great. Okay, let's see if we can reorganize this. Oh, can't because of this memory we have here. Hey, and now its job is to make it conscious for you because it needs help. Because it's not subconscious minds are not healing centers. They're not problem solvers. They actually have to move that stuff to the part of the brain that is a healer and a problem solver. So, and that is with your conscious mind. So now it's going to make it aware to you. So now you're becoming aware of old painful memories that need to be resolved, right? And these are flashbacks. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're like, get away from me, throw this out. But if you know what you're doing here, you're like, oh, thanks. Let me get that. Let me get that for us. And then you're helping your brain pull off the emotions, process that memory. I teach this. This is the second part of my program to heal and resolve flashbacks. So I am training you to resolve your flashbacks. And brains love this because once that gets completed, your brain will finally have it integrated into the neural network. And you'll have tons of epiphanies, tons of insights, and and then they send all the new information back to the subconscious mind, healed and resolved in higher level stuff. And your subconscious mind's like, ah, okay, great, thank you so much. And now let me get this stuff in order so that we can get our goals. You want your goals, your goal achievement to run from the subconscious level because that's where the win is. You want in the beginning, you might be, you know, being very willful about how you're interacting with your child, but ultimately we need that. We don't want your subconscious mind going in the other direction because it's going to sneak out and do the other thing. But we want to work together so that from your subconscious program, you are being of the person, your goal self with your child. And so, and then you get to grow and you get to heal and you get to stay up to date with your child. A lot of times children are outgrowing their parents because their parents' trauma is keeping them at, you know, if mom's trauma started at 12 and her processor's broken, there's lots of areas mom's life, mom's not past 12. Other areas mom is. Dad's too. Dad's 12 here. And he has not progressed because his brain couldn't go through the process of healing and resolving and upgrading this so that he could grow. So when dad gets triggered, even though he's 49, dad gets triggered and all of a sudden he's 12. Okay, well, his child's now 16 and his child's like, what the heck? And now his child is losing respect and his child is learning, I can't trust dad here, right? No, it's okay if this is happening. This is signs, oh, I need to resolve this. I want you to be able to recognize that sign, get in there and resolve that programming. And so whatever needs to be resolved in there, and your brain will tell you, it's pretty awesome. Um, and get that resolved so that your brain naturally starts flowing up. A little bit of work in there can turn you into a 49-year-old again. And you've never been 49 in that area ever because your brain was able to complete the work that was holding back the maturation process, that was holding you into a regression in that spot. This is huge, especially for complex PTSD recovery. I have a history of complex PTSD as well, and I've done a lot of healing work. And what I have learned is I don't know when I'm going to find that area that I don't function well. My subconscious programming is trash or outdated or whatever it is. But once I see it, I know what to do with it. This is huge. I remember having a family member see it and not know anything to do with it and feel defeated. We don't need to be defeated about this. We can really resolve these things. And when you do when you start, when you start a process like the one I've developed, you learn all these little skills, these little skills, because we're working on being able to unravel the subconscious programming. That's really our goal, is to get in there. But as you're doing this stuff, you really start to look behind the programming. You really start to see that this is not you. These behaviors are not you. This is your programming. This is powerful. This is so awesome. It releases so much shame. It's so empowering, and it helps us be more accurate, because if we're talking about what's wrong with me, the brain will go in and devour and cut up and dismantle the self, looking for what's wrong. There's nothing wrong with who we are. There is a ton wrong with our programming. And really, when we put our eyes on the programming, we can create shifts there, and we're not wasting time tearing up the self, thinking it's our fault. What's wrong with me? I'm too broken. I'm this. No, you're not. This is your programming needs work. And I want you to put your attention there on the programming. And the steps that you walk through in my process really put you in that position to see that clearly. Not because I'm telling you to, but because you've worked with your brain enough to be able to see behind all the things, see the work that needs to get done. And it's experience. It's that. So I really want you to learn these skills to really start unraveling these programs that are no longer serving you and that are full of trauma or full of neglect. right? And this is what happens when people are not taking care of themselves, right? They have a childhood where they were neglected, and so their subconscious programming is set for neglecting the self, to neglecting to care for the self. Now they don't take care of themselves, and now they're beating themselves up. Well, I didn't do this, and I didn't. Yeah, you weren't programmed to. So now we need to build the programming for that. And there are steps to build the programming. I am not going to be one of those people that say, hey, you need to build this program and then stand there and watch you. No, I'm going to walk you through every step of this process because there's a process for this. And if you knew it, you would have done it already. So I invite you to really get in there, get in the driver's seat of your healing journey and cook. Get this subconscious programming resolved, work through. And so I want to invite you to try the interventions for this. Step one is to get an intervention that works to unblock your brain's natural healing, upgrading, maturation process, symptom resolution process. And these interventions are body interventions. We need to use the body so that the part of the brain we're working with can receive the signals that, hey, we're safe, and we can let the processor stay on. You don't have to shift us into survival mode. Thank you. But we need to work with that part of the brain the way it's designed to function, not make it be something it's not, because it's not. It's not a thinking center. It's not a reasoning center. It's not a logical center. And so we want to work with it through the body. And so I have three of my favorite interventions for this. They work within 30 seconds. They work within 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and you'll see results afterwards. And you'll see, and I have a video in that program where I show you what you're looking for. The brain, when brains finish this, you're going to notice some things. And even if you just get one of them, that intervention works for you. And then I want you to try the next one and see what you notice. You might notice more that the next intervention works even better for you. It might work less good. It's just you need to find one that you can rely on, that you can use, because you're going to use it a lot, because we've got a lot of work to do. And yeah, and I want you to be independent with this. And then if you find an intervention, so that's my free program, Interventions for Inner World Transformation. The links are below. If you find one that works for you and you're like, what else can I do with this? A lot. This is the gateway to being able to help your brain do whatever healing work you want accomplished. And I have a program for walking you through the steps to get your brain to do the healing work you want to do. And if you want to do it, your brain also wants to do it. So, and that is incredibly liberating, because all of a sudden you have the tools, you have the strategies. We start small, we build up, and pretty soon you're doing powerful subconscious reprogramming and yourself. And that's awesome. And then sky's the limit. Once you learn these basic skills, there's nothing you can't do, and nothing you can't help support your brain to accomplish. And that program is called Inner World Transformation. The links are below as well. And with that, I encourage you to follow me here on Facebook, subscribe to me on YouTube, and yeah, let's do this. Let's keep going. And I'll see you later. Take care. Bye.